All right, everyone. We start off today talking about the Episcopal Church, white South African refugees, and so forth. This is a weird story. Whoever the PR person is for the Episcopal Church, they need to fire them in reverse course on this particular messaging. It'd probably be the wise thing to do. Realize, of course, that the Episcopal Church, with its refugee resettlement operation in partnership with the federal government until now, is left-leaning. That being said, I can't imagine that even a lot of left-leaning people are going to find this message particularly palatable. Not unless they're so-called reverse racist, which is still just racism, but I digress. Link in the description, archived of course. The Episcopal Church has ended its refugee resettlement program after many years. Now, what could possibly be the reason why? Well, it could be they ran out of money for it, right? It could be that they simply didn't want to continue it because many refugees have more conservative views than the church. And they said, well, these people aren't going to become Episcopalians anyway, certainly. So why should we do this? Those would be legitimate reasons why. If you can't do it, or if you don't want to do it for, pragmatic reason, that would make sense, right? The Episcopalian Church released a statement the other day saying that the reason that they weren't going to resettle refugees anymore is specifically, and they state this explicitly, link in the description again, they stated explicitly that it was because Donald Trump had branded white South Africans as generally able to gain refugee status. So sorry, Anton, but the Episcopalian Church isn't going to help your relatives come into the country because terrorists are attacking them. And that's what's happening in South Africa. Between the farm killings, the rampant crime, the enormous unemployment, and the fact that this group of people, white South African farmers generally, are having their land literally stolen from them by the government, I would say that that level of persecution warrants at least the request for asylum by these individuals. Now, you don't have to grant it. It could be that somebody is a white South African, maybe they own 100 acres, maybe 200, whatever, and, their family hasn't yet been butchered by, mobs of racist Zulus or anything like that, and they haven't had their land taken. Maybe they had just little enough land that the government wasn't interested in saying, okay, that's not really a refugee necessarily. But many of these people have been explicitly persecuted. The official policy now in South Africa is to try to appropriate land from people based on their skin color. Whites are a tiny minority of people in South Africa. And by the way, I will note that the Zulu king himself came out some time ago and sided with these farmers and said that this was a bad idea. Well, this is hilarious. Americans generally won't understand. It's just like when there was racial violence in South Africa, I think 10 years ago or thereabouts, in which the Zulu majority began burning cars and driving out black people from other countries. A lot of Americans couldn't understand this. They don't understand that there is still a more ethnic-based mentality there. And it would be sort of like if Italian Americans and Irish Americans were fighting in the streets at the Five Corners or something like that, like a Tammany Hall moment. It's basically the same thing. And the South African government is legendarily corrupt. The economy is in shambles. There's a reason why people are leaving the country. I'm not surprised in the least. Yes, white people are persecuted in the nation of South Africa. Does not matter whether it's somebody who's more wealthy or somebody who just, owns 10 acres out in the middle of nowhere. If you're the latter, you're probably worse off. If you happen to be in the walled-off city of Pretoria, you're probably fine. Crime? Yes. Unemployment? Yes. But you're probably going to be safer than if you're trying to raise your kids on your farm. Now, you're going to need a defense barrier and security guards just to grow your goddamn crops at this point. South Africa is falling apart, and the West knows this. And Trump knows this. The Episcopal Church also is, I'm sure, acutely aware of this. But they thought that it was a bad idea if they helped to resettle refugees in the United States simply because of their skin color. Literally, this is their statement. They are proclaiming the fact that it's because they are white Afrikaners. They're proclaiming, and no, the Boers, no, 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 they don't need to come into the country. But I guarantee, I can absolutely guarantee, if some black minority anywhere in the world is being persecuted by a bunch of crackers, they wouldn't have ended their refugee program. In fact, they probably would have expanded it. The Episcopal Church is quite large and very wealthy. They have the money, so that's not an excuse. They're literally telling us that they are racist against white people. I mean, technically, you're discriminating against Africans, by the way. That's a great look. That makes a lot of sense. This will go over well with everybody in the world. Now, it looks, dumb. It looks stupid. And it is. I have no idea why they would publicly admit to the reason that they were ending the refugee resettlement program. I know that this would be shystery, but if I were the one that was doing public outreach for the Episcopal Church, I would say, look, we're ending the program. We probably just shouldn't give a reason. Or we should just blame it on money problems or something like that. Hey, we can't partner with the federal government anymore. Or make it a political issue. Just say, Orange man bad. But they only did that in a sideways manner. And they literally told you, no, we're not bringing in white South Africans. We're not going to help the federal government do that. So the Episcopal Church has decided that some children of God are worth more than others based on the amount of melanin in their skin, basically. Is it melanin or melatonin is the supplement, right? I don't know. Whatever. Uh, they're literally telling us this. Well, I mean, I can imagine that there are people that aren't going to church this Sunday, so to speak. I imagine some of your ministers are going to end up having to answer some hard questions from parishioners as well. Hey, what gives? When God whispered in the ear of the people that run the Episcopal Church and said that this was a good idea, I don't think that it was actually God doing that. I think it was like a demon pretending to be God or something like that. It's completely nonsensical. That's about all. Peace out.